Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another video. I've been doing a lot of back content. I'm winded because I just did two other ones, but you know what? Hey, whatever. Maybe I should have started with this one, but hey. So what are you gonna do? Okay, quick plug. This is my first book, The Yamikage. Okay, wonderful, huge, amazing, great. This one is fantasy fiction in contrast to the other two, which are horror variations of horror. Although I have a lot of different types of books written and stacked, and they're in the trunk ready to get out. So yeah, my goal is to write 100 books. Yeah, woo-hoo. But what am I gonna do to do that? I study my fundamentals. I understand my fundamentals, but I'm also a psychology major, which definitely helps with that. I like to plug that in a lot because psychology comes in to writing a lot, and a lot of people neglect that. So with that being said, you need, or rather you should want to understand people. You want to understand why they tick, why they do the things they do, and eventually you might be, especially if you study a lot, you'll be able to really see a lot of things at surface value. When it comes to people, you can't always judge them like a book, but once you get to read a few pages, that first sentence, that first chapter, that first paragraph, you'll be able to kind of see where they're going. You know what I mean? So that's kind of really complex. But yeah, of course, you don't understand everything about somebody. But anyways, we're not even here to talk about that. Well, we are and we aren't. We're here to talk about fantasy dialogue. Okay. This is something that, I'm not. I would say I am proficient. I would say I'm definitely proficient, but I'm not going to say I'm perfect yet. I'm no bestseller, but I'm here to just give you what I've learned, what works for me. And with that being said, this is for fantasy fiction, but this applies to people with all different types of dialogue. This is dialogue where there's a lot of characters involved. Because the Yamikage in particular, a lot of people say, oh, there's too many characters. Well, the part is, there's the Yamikage is the main character, but there's a central kind of council, like his best friends, there's 12 of them in totality. There's 12 characters that he surrounds himself with, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how are you going to write that effectively? Well, number one, you got to understand people, especially if you want to construct characters, okay? So I constructed of using the Jungian archetypes, as well as the Myers-Briggs. So once you understand that these two systems can be utilized for, writing, then you can kind of go out and really just understand. I recommend you just kind of read through the Myers-Briggs. That's actually been kind of refuted. We don't really use that as a standard anymore, but the Jungian archetypes are definitely a lot more reliable, in my opinion, and that's why I did a whole video on the Jungian archetypes. So let's say we're looking at the hero archetype, which is, everybody's got these archetypal symbols in their subconscious mind. The hero strives for mastery, and their motivation, the primary motivation, is to leave a legacy, and that is in psychology. we all have the Jungian archetypes in this thing right here, the brain. So anyways, writing dialogue. This comes from the acting classes I have taken. No, I'm no acting star, but I have taken the classes. So acting is reacting. So with that being said, it's yes and. With that being said, you're kind of, when you're writing dialogue, you're kind of throwing the ball around. You know what I mean? But it's got to have purpose. So we don't want to add fluff. And I think a lot of authors discover this eventually, especially really good authors, that less is more. Okay, that's another thing too, is you want to set yourself up for success. Get your character profile sheets done. I think that helps a lot too. If you know your characters like the back of your hand, then writing them is going to be easy. You don't want the voices to blend. Okay, and that's a lot of the problems that people see. I see as a beta reader. I'm a 5-star beta reader, ghostwriter, editor, blah-ba-doo-doo-doo. But anyways, I see a lot of the manuscripts I do get have these problems where no, it's nothing. It's just mistakes where all the voices blend together. It's all the same voice. Who am I? What am I doing? Who's talking? I don't even know. Imagine if you went to a party. This is another good example. I don't know if people are. A lot of writers are reclusive. So, I mean, I don't know. I used to be a big party animal, not so much anymore. But I compare writing huge sections of dialogue to almost like being at a party. There's people that kind of huddle. You kind of go mingle, and everybody's kind of doing all different types of things. But when you have so many characters in one scene, what are you going to do? I recommend this book. Okay. This is where something, a different kind of craft, and I'm bringing cinema into this. Writing short scripts. I like this a lot. So what I've been doing recently, especially with this next book, I'm going to come out with Something Left to Burn. I've been writing the dialogue, just the dialogue strips in screenwriting format, and then going back and filling out the narratives and whatnot, which is actually, for me, working out very well. And I actually kind of wish I did that with the Yamikage a little bit, but this is a 7-book series. Okay, so go ahead and pick up the first one. Second one's about to drop. Anyways, yeah, so when you have so many different characters, it helps to understand people themselves. Okay, so what about people? People are looking for the self-interest, but they're also selfless, depending on the various levels. Some people are like layers of a cake. They may look delicious, and they may look cruddy. They may look raw, they may look well cooked, but does that mean this or that? Yeah, I don't know. But you want your dialogue to have purpose. Okay, you don't want like a bunch of chatter. There's a difference between going to like a party just to get drunk, and there's a difference between going to a networking event where you're trying to basically establish yourself. You're trying to establish a purpose, and that's where a lot of good, meaningful dialogue comes in when you're trying to establish a purpose. Now, how do you do that? Understand your events, understand where you are in your plot, and understand how you can build tension. Like if you're rising action, your goal, especially in the second act, is to build tensions and intensify. So a lot of people just kind of do what's the word here? Like la di da chit chat. You don't want la di da chit chat. You know what I mean? You want purpose, and you're either a trying to forward the plot or you're trying to revere character development. Those are the two things that I would recommend focusing on: plot movement and character development. You don't want fluff. Your fluff is, I mean, like hey, what up? How you doing? I'm doing good. What's gonna happen next? Well, I don't know, man. That's not what you want. You basically want we don't want the onion chops all the time. We don't want the ping pong dialogue. We'd rather have tennis dialogue, which is a little more articulate. Pow pow. Like I guess I like to say this too is the difference between a tennis match and ping pong is ping pong is too fast and yeah, it's pretty entertaining sometimes, but the majority of the time it's just hit back and forth. You watch ping pong for those ba-boom type of arrows, but tennis, there's a lot more room for tennis to really smack it around a bit. There's a lot more room for variation, and you don't want to stumble, fumble, or any of that. So with that being said, when you're writing dialogue, focus up. Know your characters like the back of your hand, and know the purpose of what you're trying to portray. Next, we got character voices. Okay, everybody's got their own voice, whether it be timber, love, joy, personality. There's really nonverbals. Okay, there's it's kind of weird the difference between acting and trying to bring that world in here. There's still that buffer zone where you got to really translate a lot of things, but nonverbal communication. It's up to the actor to do that. But when you're writing fiction, you're I don't want to say telling. You're showing. You're showing what they're doing. You're showing their nonverbals, and you're also kind of presenting. You're not shoving it in somebody's face. You're presenting their tonality, and you do those things for elevated dialogue text or elevated narratives. But do you do it every single little time? Okay, I'm not going to be one of those advisors that are saying you got to have elevated dialogue text every moment of every day. No, 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 no. Set is dead. Yeah, that's true. Set is dead. But at the same time, sometimes simplicity is best. Especially, are the onion chops or the ping pong dialogue forbidden? Nothing's forbidden in writing, but I don't recommend overloading. And we see this a lot in fantasy fiction, is an overload of like non-symmetrical I don't know, asymmetrical linear onion chops. They're all over the place. The mind enjoys symmetry. I want you to understand it as well. The mind enjoys symmetry. It rebukes nonsense. Like it seeks what it understands. This is the mind. I bring psychology into like almost all these videos. Is the mind rebukes asymmetrical content unless it's done with purpose and deviation, especially if the mind wants it. So, why do symmetrical? Like if you look at many published books, almost all of them they have a symmetrical order. Whether it be what's the word here? There's deviation with purpose. There's no falsified deviation. If you bring something to an editor to, they're probably going to focus on symmetry aside from the grammatical errors and what the proofreads and copy edits and the overall reads. They're going to focus on different things, and you should focus on these things too. Because when you send your things off to an editor, you want to make it neat and presentable. And when I receive a manuscript that's I'm like, all right, here we go. Okay. Anyways, the reader's going to feel that way too. We have an overload of fiction nowadays. We know the market is saturated. We know. This ain't the era of the printing press just becoming. We're not in the Tom Sawyer era. We're in the ebook era, and then pretty soon it's going to be the metaverse era. You got to have foresight too, especially. And this is another thing too with foresight is you can with dialogue as well. You can kind of add foresight into it. There's so many different beautiful things. So Yamikage, 12 characters. They're usually always palling around. The point. Oh my goodness, back. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, maybe I'll edit that out. Maybe I won't. We'll see. The editor that doesn't like video editing. Well, I don't dislike it. I like it. Anyways, what are we gonna do here? Oh, look at the lighting is all crazy. Man, what was I just talking about? Oh yeah, dialogue. So we're talking about extensive dialogue, unique dialogue, and when you're bringing in so many different characters in one scene, I really want to focus on that multitude. And the last video is same with this video. It's probably gonna have multiple renditions, multiple different kind of versions. This one's more focusing on wider, more encompassing dialogue when you have a lot of more characters. Don't be afraid to, present a good cast, present, unique, memorable characteristics. This is pivotal too. This needs to show on all levels, all stacks. At least I recommend it that way. From their appearance down to their tonality, to their nonverbals, down to their the verbals. You know what I mean? So you can even utilize syntax. Okay, you can always utilize syntax. You can use sentence structure. You can use those fun stylizing. That's fun. The reader likes that. Okay, sometimes people are like, don't overload it. Use those with purpose. And when you have a lot of characters in the room, it can help. Keep it short and sweet. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to add fluff. And like I said earlier, maybe like a minute ago or something like that, we love symmetry. Okay, the brain loves symmetry, and the brain registers information and forgets very easy. This thing is feeble. It's beautiful, it's complex, but it's also quite feeble. So it forgets quite easily. But what you want to do is you want to add situations and things that stick out. So you add memorability by presenting plot action and character development, which is very important. So let's look through some sections. Yeah. Uh, oh, there's the book over there. Let's see. What are we doing here? Just random. These are all random videos off the dome. Like I don't even know. Okay. Indeed, there are no secrets among us, Elos. You'll know that by now. So, I guess find your purpose. Like, here's the thing. Like, if you got a lot of characters in the room, who's the lead? And you see that in movies too. And like I said, I bring this up from a lot of screenwriting techniques, putting it into the writing. Who is your lead? Who's your star that scene? Focus on that. Focus on your key players. And then once you have your other characters in the room, they're not there to add fluff. You know what I mean? They're not there to just kind of bog things down. They're there to help elevate. So when you're a co-star, and you gotta let go, okay, a little bit. When you gotta let go a little bit, let the person shine. You're there to help enhance and help elevate them as well. So know your main characters and know your main players and what their purpose is. And here's what the fun part is: you can kind of separate these. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like being at a party where you can kind of separate here, just kind of move to things. Make other characters their major players. Give each and every one of them the time to shine. Let's go back to Star Wars. I'm always going back to Star Wars. Like I said, Star Wars is not a novel. But yeah, usually you see there are scenes. This is not every single section. This is not every single time. There are certain scenes where everybody's together, but are they going to be all together all the time? No, that's a candy treat for the reader. You know what I mean? Especially if they already love the characters. That's a candy treat. So go ahead and really start, learning where to cut. It's not about most authors get it twisted where they're like, how can I elevate? You know what I mean? Let me add more word count. And that's another thing that fantasy authors, I think they don't think that they struggle with, but I know that they struggle with. They have this preconception of more word count equals cooler fantasy. I've been there. Okay, that's not always the case. You don't want to sit out there and say, I want this novel to be 500,000 words, bruh. And if it ain't, it's not good. Like, what? No, dude, you focus on the good elements of the story. Focus on the fundamentals, then elevate, okay? Or elevate as you go as well, but basically, how can I say this? Don't add fluff. It's better most times. You'll find this out later down the line, too. Especially if you want to be a multiple book author or you're writing a series or something, you will find that cutting out is more effective than putting in, okay? Because less is more. That's the way the mind works as well. Don't neglect that. It's not even just about how readers like it. It is and it isn't. Like the mind, readers have minds. And with that being said, the mind enjoys what it can anticipate, and that's why you take preconceptions and deviate with purpose. Deviate with purpose. It's not. Don't fool yourself. Like, know your game plan, and that will come with revisions and that will come with edits. So it helps a lot of fantasy authors. And I think the problem with this, maybe not the problem, but maybe the roadblock is there are a lot of hairy off the cuffers is what I call them. There's hairy plotters like me, and there's off the cuffers. I used to be an off the cuffer, and this book was off the cuff. And they just kind of write, let me just sit down or write. That works for a lot of authors, not all of them. And I think honestly, that is really hit or miss. You know what I mean? That if anything, that's majority hit or miss because sometimes it ends up being so much fluff, dude. Less is more, and especially it sounds counterintuitive when there's a lot of characters. Less is more. Give them their stance, and let's you can use screenwriting techniques, which is what I've been doing. But just in the last novel, this is not in this novel, but I've been doing that. So like, you could start with this, for example. There's maybe 6 characters here. I just pulled this out of nowhere. So we have single sentence narrative, single sentence dialogue. It's really just simple. Size it down and then elevate. Okay, know your purpose, know your plot, and if you're sitting there like thinking like, bruh, like like me, I'm rambling. You know what I mean? Like if this was a book right now, you could tell that this is so much to take in. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna end it here just because my camera is this needs battery. Battery. Yeah. So with that being said, I hope this helps somebody out. When you're writing a lot of dialogue, give people a unique voice. Okay. Let it shine through the nonverbals. Let it shine through the tonality, and realize that everybody, people that are humans or have human-like characteristics, have human psychology. So the mind enjoys symmetry. So especially when you're actually constructing your presentation, bring out that symmetry. Less is more. Less is more. Less is more. I can't stress, and that goes for just conversation. That goes from the mind. The mind is feeble. Don't fool yourself into thinking that the complexity of the brain is completely highlighting its feebleness. It's like a little bit of left and right. The mind is such a beautiful thing, but it's so feeble. It forgets so many things, dude. And it's so to the point, I think they have these things called mentalists, and I love mentalism. It's so freaking fun. They take this thing where like they'll talk to you, and then they'll hold a newspaper right here, and then they'll be like, oh, so what happened today? And then you'll say what's on the newspaper. um, and you won't even know it, and then you'll be like, oh, look, I just showed you this. My point is the mind is so easily tricked. It is so fun to play with, and that's what authors like us do. It we play with people's brains, and we actualize our own brains. So and that comes through your characters. Oh, also at the same time, this is a big one too. Maybe kind of construct your characters around people that you know pretty well, or like maybe concepts, or even other characters. Don't steal, but characters that you can kind of know like the back of your hand. And I think a lot of it works when you people put personalities of people that know, because then you're not starting from scratch. You're like, okay, well, I know how my pal Bob, I know how he talks. I know how he's gonna talk if I give him a sword and fight a dragon. I know how my friend Sarah is gonna sound if like she's in a space battle or something. Like fantasy is all over the place. Science fiction as well, and this is happening. Like I said. Anyways, dialogue. A lot of people in one room. Less is more. Make everything help the plot or add to character development. You don't want fluff, okay? I don't know. Disagree if you will, okay? I'm not here to encompass your opinion, but fluff is most times not necessary. Fantasy authors, word counts, don't put that crutch on you. Okay, please don't put that crutch on you, because you will regret it during the revisions, or you'll put out something that whatever. You know what I mean? Don't self jeopardize yourself. I also recommend maybe taking an acting class, or maybe learning a little bit of screenwriting or understanding acting. Maybe take an improv class or get an improv app and understand yes and, because your characters are bouncing off each other. Yes and they do it with a purpose. So if you're watching a play, they're not just chit chatting for no reason. You could really bring all these kind of these wings and put them on a phoenix. You know what I mean? To resurrect your writing if you need it. Kill the game, like and subscribe, get those 500, 1,000 words in, do the Pomodoro, and keep it real. Don't stop writing. You've got this. Do not ever stop writing, or I will come and find you and, and talk fast in your ear. All right, peace, best. Peace.